Hello, all you beautiful, beautiful souls, and welcome back to another episode of The Answers. And yep, today we are going to dig into something that I know 100% that you have all been feeling. I have been feeling it, and yeah, I know that you have been too. So, if you can recognize this, because today is very, very simple, but it's going to hit you. It's going to hit you if you can recognize yourself and if you are really, really listening to what's happening here. Because if you have ever thought, why does this keep happening to me? If you have ever met someone and it felt different at first, but somehow it ended the same way. If you have ever felt confused, waiting, unsure where you stand, then this episode is for you. Like, this is exactly those feelings we're going to talk about, right? And because this is not about them. We think always it's about them. We always put our feelings into them, the energy into them, right? You have your energy, they have their energy. It's not about them. This is about the pattern. This is about your pattern. Yeah, I know that's going to hit you, I know, but this is about your own pattern, and not in the heavy way, right? Not in the blaming way, but in the way that gives you your power. Your power, it's only in you and in your patterns, because this is will give you the power back, right? Because once you see the pattern, you can actually stop repeating it. What do you feel when I say like that? Once you see the pattern, you can actually stop repeating it. Yet we do repeat it. Why is that? This is what we're going to talk about. I have done it. Oh my God, I have done it because it felt familiar to me. And also I get, when I get obsessed in a pattern, it's because the pattern has been teaching me a certain way of being loved, or what is good enough for me, or anything like that. So you keep repeating it because you don't know anything else. You need to break that. And as you listen, I want you to stay close to yourself the whole episode, because you are going to recognize things, moments, all right? People, feelings. And when that happens, don't push it away. This is exactly where the shift begins, because every situation that we are going through in life, and also all the people that is coming into our lives, is there for a reason. There is a saying that we cannot grow emotionally, right, if we not go through pain first. We need the pain to grow emotionally. So every pain and every shift that you have, even if it feels unfair, it is there for you to get triggered so that you can feel something inside of you, change it, shift it, right? This is supposed to be like that. Even if you feel this is unfair, you need to look at your pattern. And of course, things can happen in life that is not about you. We can have outer circumstances, but once it becomes a pattern, it is about you. And to break that pattern, you need to look inside, because nothing will change unless you break the pattern. Okay? So now, change the pattern, right? There is something that I want you to really understand as we begin this episode, and it's the pattern does not change until you do. The pattern will not change until you do. Not as a motivation idea right now, but as something you can observe in your real life when you slow everything down and look honestly at your relationships. Because most people think that they are meeting new experiences, new people, new chances at love. No, but what is actually happening is repetition. You think you are in a new situation. You think that it's a new person, but it's just repetition. The same emotional story showing up again and again in different forms, different faces, different beginnings, but the same emotional ending. Yeah, do you recognize that? The same emotional ending. And now we have a pattern, your pattern, and nothing will change until you change that pattern. And if you really let yourself feel into that moment, you will probably recognize something already. I think you can already relate to what I'm saying. Maybe a situation where it started with excitement, with potential, with hope, and then slowly shifted into uncertainty, into waiting, into not fully knowing where you stand. And even before it ended, something in you already knew how it would feel. You already knew it because you have already been there. This is repetitive, right? So, yeah, this is the pattern. And when we talk about patterns, what we really mean is something that repeats in your emotional experience without you consciously deciding it. I want to repeat that actually, even if we talk about repeating, okay? What I mean now is that when something repeats in your emotional experience without you consciously deciding it, then it's a cycle, it's a loop, it's a familiar sequence of feelings, choices, and reactions that shows up again and again and again in different situations. It's almost like, how can I say? It's almost like your inner world is following a script that you did not write consciously, but that you learn over time through experience, through attachment, and through emotional conditioning. But it's not your script, right? You're writing it unconsciously. Remember that. Remember that. And the important part here is that the pattern is not only what happens to you, it is how you respond to what is happening. How you respond to what is happening. It is how quickly you lean in, how long you stay, what you tolerate, what you explain, what you hope will change. Even when something in you always recognize what is going on because you know it. You know it. I know that you know it. It's repetitive, it's a pattern. And if you are honest with me, you have felt this before. Yeah, you have felt this before. The moment where you already know, but you stay anyway. And how many times have we been doing that? We already know. I for sure have. I knew the outcome. I have been in exact that situation many times before, and you exact how it will turn out and the outcome. But you know what? This is one of the reasons I stayed, exactly because I knew the outcome. So I was in control, right? And you can be in control out of fear, or how you cannot lean in to be feeling loved. You don't think you deserve it, or you think this is how it's supposed to be. That is control. It's kind of a control. Yeah. That is why we do it. We go back in it, but we know because it's repetitive. So this is familiarity. So what does familiarity looks like? Attraction is not random. There is a feeling inside of you that learn what love is supposed to feel like. And your body remembers that more, than your thoughts is doing. So your mind find yourself now drawn to emotional distance, inconsistency, waiting, or not knowing where you stand. This is you're drawn to that. You taught your nervous system this. It's not random. This is the feeling inside of you, and that is why you are there. And as I say this, I want you now to notice if something in you goes, yes, yes, I know that feeling. Because that is when it becomes real. When you can say, yes, I know this feeling, I have been there. Your mind calls it chemistry, right? Your mind calls it chemistry, but your system calls it familiar. And familiar is powerful because it does not ask if something is good for you. It is only asked if it's known. It does not ask if it's good for you. It only asks if it's known, if it feels like something you have already experienced before. So even if it creates anxiety, even if it makes you overthink, even if it keeps you slightly off balance, there is still something in that feeling when it feels, when you recognize it. All right. And that is recognition that pulls you in. That is recognition that pulls you back in to the repetitive pattern. So the inner confusion here, because of course, in your mind and in your soul, there's a complete confusion. And this is where the whole confusion begins. Because at the same time, you might be telling yourself, I want something stable. I want clarity. I want someone who is emotionally available. And you meant that. You did mean that. That is real to you. But when you actually meet it, when someone shows up, clearly, consistently, without any emotional gains, something in you might not fully respond to it. And you want to really check that in yourself, all right? Because many people have that experience where they meet someone who is actually steady, and instead of feeling deeply drawn, they feel insecure or disconnected or like something is missing. And when you feel like that, you go back to what feels more alive, more uncertain, more intense, because the nervous system has learned that emotional movement equals connection. The nervous system has learned that emotional movement equals connection. Now you can feel unfamiliar. And confusion can feel like something is meaningful. Confusion feels like it's meaningful. And if you recognize that in yourself, all right, that is not something to judge. Okay, that is something to understand. I think we have all been there. And it's very difficult because it's like parallels. Your mind and your heart and your soul says, I want something. I want something clearly here with clarity, consistency. I want the deep love. I want the real love. You really, really want that. That is no lie. Yet, it is not familiar for you. So you repeat the pattern and you seek new people, new situations where it's unfamiliar, where it's uncertain. All right? And when you go that path, the nervous system says, okay, yeah, now you are at home. But if you go to something that is safe, the nervous system will say, no, 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 go back. So you go parallel. You are sending out to the universe in signals and to the creator. You're sending out, I want love. I want love. But yet in the subconscious, you are saying, no, I'm not ready. I will seek the unemotional people. I'm not ready to hold it. So now it's like two worlds here. You're sending out this and you are asking for this. And that cannot happen. So you repeat the pattern. It needs to be aligned. Okay. So this is the loop in the real life. The pattern continues not only in your mind, it continues in real life. And normally it's not like big dramatic moments. It is small repeated choices that builds over time. Okay, so you meet someone who's not fully available, not feels consistent, not feel fully clear. And the first there is excitement. There is potential. There is hope, and you feel that pull again. But then something shifts. Something shifts. Messages are not consistent. Everything changes. You start wondering, and this is where you really see yourself, because in this moment where the pattern or the either continues or begins to break, this is what happens now. Because what most people do, and maybe you do, is to lean in even more. So the more inconsistent it goes, the more you lean in. This is the pattern you do. The more they go, the more you follow, with a neediness. You want clarity, you want clarity. So this is the pattern you are repeating all the time, chasing, okay? You start to think more, you start to analyzing, you start to try to understand, you start to try to adjust yourself. And slowly, without noticing it, you are building an emotional connection through effort, okay? Through uncertainty, through trying to stabilize something that is not stable. You are doing this. You are trying to change them. You are trying to build something that is emotional, connected. You are trying to do this through effort, through uncertainty, through trying to stabilize something that is absolutely not stable. You are trying to change this, to change another person. Okay? And if you have ever felt that, where you are more invested in figuring it out than actually being met, then you already know this pattern. Reflect on that one. Have you ever felt like this? Because then you are in the pattern. You are already there. And I know my story when I was there. My God, I tried to change it. And for me, it has always been I believed words. And I think if you have been listening to my previous episode, you know this. I always believed words. So they could always sugar me up with words, and I would believe that. So I didn't require action. Because if someone told me, oh, I love you, or la 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 la, I was drawn to that pattern. That was like kind of enough. So for me, love me, love me, love me has been my journey in life. See me, love me. And I took the breadcrumbs because I didn't know anything else. So I created breadcrumbs. I created a pattern. Yeah, an unhealthy pattern. And I'm so thankful I'm not in that anymore. So there is a shift, there is a change. As soon as you recognize the pattern, as soon as you identify your pattern, you can shift it. Because nothing will change, if you don't. You need to change to get the pattern to change. So underneath all of this, what is happening here is something deeper, okay, that builds over time, something that is not always visible because it cannot be, you just feel it. It's just very real when the pattern repeats. You feel it because you see it. Oh, I know the outcome here. I've been here before. This story, this script, I have been here before. I've seen this. I know exactly the outcome. But yeah, I jump into the fire anyway. Why don't I do that? I go into the same chapter again so I know the outcome again. Because you do know, right? Deep inside. Because at some point, this is also fear, right? This is where the pattern repeats, and that is the emotional weight of it. And I would say that is fear. I think you can recognize that. So 2 seconds, I need to drink some water here as always. Yeah, it's fear. It's fear-based. And when we come from lack and fear, we all know we push it. So I would say that fear that maybe this is just how it is. For me, that was the feeling. Maybe this is just how it is. Maybe this is what I deserve. This is how love looks like. And it can also be like fear that maybe love will always feel uncertain to you. It will always be uncertain. But that is also control. You remember what I told you. If it feels uncertain and you accept that and you repeat that pattern, it is also some kind of control. Because when you know the outcome, that is control. It is familiar, yes, and the nervous system is pulled, but it's also control here. So it's also like fear that maybe you are the one doing something wrong. And maybe you feel that when you express your feelings, you're too much. And when you don't express your feelings, you're too less. And you try to eggshell here so that you are good enough for them. This is also a pattern. And I want you really to reflect. Because you know what? Pleasing, if we take pleasing, if you do pleasing and everyone likes you, that is not healthy. That is not healthy for your nervous system, and you're not stable and calm in the nervous system because everyone cannot like us. So when we work from that, we are not authentic. Then we are meeting a new person and we think, how can I do to make that person like me? This is adjusting. This is adjusting. It is repeating your pattern over and over, even when you thought that you have learned from it. Because when you do this over and over, frustration comes in. Frustration of for yourself and at yourself for staying longer than you wanted to, frustration at others for not showing up differently, frustration at the situation, repeating again, even when you thought that you have learned from it. And now you have the proof you did not learn from it. You did not grow from it. You are still in the same pattern, the same fear. You are repeating with different people in different situations. You did not learn. So now you get totally frustrated also with those people. And maybe those people are not, unavailable. Maybe for you, it is how you connect to those people. Maybe you are self-sabotaging. And if this continues, there can be a quiet, hopeless feeling now. It's not loud and it's not dramatic, but it's a tiredness. Like you are totally emotionally exhausted from trying, from hoping, from starting over again and again and again. It's draining to start over so many times. And especially if you are the one self-sabotaging, you need to go through exactly the same script over and over and over. So you also know, oh my God, okay, I go from here and I do a new script and I will do everything once again, exactly the same, with exactly the same outcome. Look inside of you. This space, if you say that you are single, when you are in this hopelessness, and let's say that you are single, because many of my clients feel like really, how can I say it, hopeless when they are single. If that space, being single, starts to feel heavy for you, not because being alone is a problem, because it's not, but because everything you are carrying with you in yourself, in that loneliness, the memories, the questions, and the uncertainty, that state, it becomes very easy to lower your standards, to accept less, just to not feel that discomfort anymore that it gives. The feeling of discomfort is so big. The hopelessness is so high. The self-esteem is so low. You don't feel that you can get anything better. You are now starting to settle for less. So this is actually very, very bad for your self-esteem. But this is also where you see everything clearly. And the nervous system needs to heal here, because now you see everything clearly. Because the feeling, that pressure, that frustration, it's not the end at all. It's the edge of the change. It is what happens when your old pattern no longer fully works for you. Yeah, it doesn't really work for you. But your new way of being has not fully settled yet. So it's just there. So now I want you to be curious of that. And I want you to really see that pain is the way for you to grow. You cannot settle, because if you do settle, again, you're settling with yourself. And again, you will attract what is not for you. And again, you will repeat the pattern. Okay? So this is a growth. You're in the between. And the in between is not bad. You can be in the between. It's not bad at all. This is where everything happens. This is where everything shifts. That space feels so uncomfortable because it's shifting. I know that I have done an episode of being in the between. It's very beautiful. So being in the between is actually, you're going from the past and you're in this empty space and you really don't know what's going to happen. You just left the past and you're going into the now, and maybe you can go into the future, but we always have a now. And you just, I don't know what's going to happen now. This is the space where everything happens. When you are going through the deep, 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 deep pain, leaving it. How can you grow if you are not? But you will repeat the pattern if you are not going to the other side. You are not defined with your past. You are not the identity of your past. You are in the now. We need to see the difference here so you can break the pattern. So now I want you to reflect. What pattern are you repeating over and over and over? What pattern are you repeating? Okay. Now, the shift in the tool, so that you have some tools here. The real shift is not about finding better people. It is about becoming someone different inside you, in the same type of situations. And this is where transformation actually begins, because you stop trying to change reality from the outside and you start to change the way you hold reality inside of yourself. How does that feel? You are starting to hold the change and the reality inside of yourself. Yeah. You stop outsourcing certainty. That is actually something that I really like to say. I say this all the time to my clients. You just stop outsourcing certainty. You stop looking for clarity in people. You start building it internally, inside and out, and not outside and in. And this is where it becomes practical, because you start to pause instead of react. You start to observe instead of immediately engage. You give yourself space to see what is actually now happening before you decide what it means. You need to look at the colors. What is happening here? You will now become this. You become someone who notices confusion and does not immediately enter it. You become someone who can feel attraction without losing clarity. You become someone who trusts consistency more than intensity. And you become someone who no longer confuses nervous system activation with emotional truth. You become someone who stays with uncertainty, all right, without abandoning yourself in it. And as you hear this, I want you now to notice something. This is something not far from you. This is something that you are already capable of, because you have already seen the parts of you in this pattern. You have already seen it. So this is close. You can just grasp it. You can just take it. The shift is there. You have already moments where you knew, where something felt off, where clarity was actually there, but you chose to stay anyway. All right. You knew. You have the moments here. Now, the shift is simply this. You act from what you already see, and trust begins to move inside of you. Not as something else that someone gives to you, but as something that you hold. And that changes everything. So again, the shift, you act for what you already see. Yeah. And trust begins now to move inside of you, not as something that someone else gives to you, but as something that you hold. That changes everything. Are you with me? Are you with me in this? Because now let's see what love actually is. What is love? How do you define love? What is love? I need to drink some water. As soon as I say love, I get like, mm. We all love, we all love love. Okay, so at some point, something becomes very clear. Real love. Okay, let's look into real love. I want you to listen up. Okay, real love, it is not chasing. Real love is not chasing. Real love is not guessing. Real love is not waiting to be chosen. Because if you constantly have to prove your worth to receive basic emotional presence, then what you are in is not love, it is adaptation. You are adapting. How can it be real love when you need to chase it? How can it be real love when you need to say, please meet me, please call me, please text me, please show up, please be consistent? How can it be love? It is not love, it's adaptation. And if you are really honest with yourself, you have felt that difference. You have felt what it's like to be unsure, to question, to try to hold something together. And you are the engine here. And you have also had moments, even small ones, where something felt easy, where you did not have to think so much, where you did not have to wonder. And that is the difference between unhealthy love and real love. because love does not keep you in confusion. Love does not make you smaller. Love does not require you constantly adjusting who you are. And one of the hardest truth is realizing that sometimes what felt, so strong and the strongest was not the healthiest. I know that. It was just familiarity. So maybe it was just an obsession. Maybe it was just you hitting the familiarity. But that is not real love. That is a repeating a pattern from the past. But you're in the now. Now you're in the now. We can let go of the past. We do not do that anymore. You do not do that anymore. You are breaking this pattern. All right? When you see that, something will shift inside of you. So this is where everything shifts. When you do that, not when someone enters your life, but when you become different inside. When you already recognize, because once you see that pattern clearly, you cannot fully go back to it, right? You cannot fully go back to it. You might feel the pull, you might recognize the attraction, but something in you sees it at the same time. You know it because you've been there, you've seen the script before, and that changes your choice. Now you will change your choice. And slowly your experiences will change. You feel calmer, clearer, more steady. And what used to pull you, what used to pull you in no longer has the same effect. Not because it disappeared, but because you are no longer relating to that in the same way. You made a shift, you made a change. You're in the now, you're not in the past. That is how pattern ends. Not by force, but by awareness becoming stronger than familiarity. Isn't that powerful? Awareness becoming stronger than familiarity. You can recode yourself. Let go of those patterns. You're worthy. You're worthy of more, but you need to be aligned with what you think and what you feel and what you attract. Okay, you need to be aligned to the universe, to the creator. So as we speak of the creator, I will do a small spiritual layer here because you know that I like that. Everything goes with the spiritual, everything goes to the universe and to the creator because, that's the light and the only light that you actually need. And one of my biggest mentor that I look at online is David Guillaume, and how he says it and how you can feel the light through him is actually everything is about the light to the creator and the trust and the certainty. He says always the certainty beyond the logic, and it's so true. So you need to trust yourself, the change, and also to embrace the pain that you have been going through in life, because that's how you grow. But now it is time to break the pattern. And I know that you know what pattern I am talking about. And if we look at it now from a deeper perspective, what you begin to understand is that life is always reflecting something back at you, not as a trap, but to show you what still is activating and active inside of you. All right. Every repeated pattern is an invitation for you to become more aware, more present, more conscious in how you choose. And once awareness is there, repetition loses its power. Reflect on that one. Once awareness is there, repetition loses its power. Now you do the work. You do the healing. You let go of the past. You're in the now. Every time you recognize the same story, the same script, the same outcome, you know that you are in a repetitive pattern. And you know, as you know the outcome, this is about familiarity and not love. This is about familiarity and not love. Okay? So this is what has to be broken. For me, when I saw that I did the same thing over and over and over, it annoyed me, but I got obsessed with it. I just wanted that feeling. It was a dopamine for me as well. Like, I want this. This is familiar to me. How can I be in the other side? I don't know how to react, to be, to feel. And this, my loved ones, this is about holding love, how you hold love. and the trust to yourself and the self-respect that you have to yourself. Now, acknowledge the repeated pattern you have in your life. And as soon as you know the outcome and how it feels, it's time to break it. Go into the now, let go of the past. This is only happening to you from the Creator so that you can see it, so that you can feel it, so that you can become aware of it, to shift it, to change it. Now, that is what you need to do. Okay? So, as we come now to the end of this episode, I want you to leave now with something very, very clear. Not as a question, not as something you need to figure out later, but as something you already recognize now. Okay? So, you see the pattern, and once you see it, you cannot go back to inside, inside of yourself the same way. You don't need more time to understand it. You don't need more experience to confirm it. You already know what is clear, and you already know what it feels confusing, right? And from this point, your power is so simple. You stop choosing what you already understand. You stop explaining away inconsistency. Inconsistency is always wrong. You stop calling confusion for potential, and you stop saying where you have to earn what should be given freely. And this is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming aware and then acting from that awareness. Because once you see clearly, your choices naturally will change. And when your choices change, your patterns will end. Not slowly, no, but the moment you stop participating in them in the same way, things will happen. Magic will start to happen to you. So you don't leave this episode now wondering what to do. You leave this knowing what you recognize, knowing what you no longer accept, knowing what you're available for now. And that is where everything shifts. And you are on it. You're in it. Embrace it. Break the pattern. Be in the now. Look at what you have been repeating and enter now the shift. Okay, my loved ones, we will do some affirmations before we close. And yeah, this is my favorite part, the affirmation, as we all know. So I want you now to repeat after me. I am not broken. I am becoming aware. I no longer confuse intensity with love. I trust what is consistent and real. I can sit with being single without losing my worth. I am safe even when I'm alone. I do not abandon myself to avoid uncertainty. Clarity is more important to me than emotional highs. I choose peace over familiar chaos. I am building trust with myself. I am becoming someone who no longer repeats the old pattern. Thank you for being with me in this episode. And if you want to contact me, you can do so on my email, info@janettewienberg.se. And until next week, Wednesday, when I release the next episode, stay true to yourself, take care of yourself, and with lots of love from me to you.